What's up, everybody? Welcome back to RacingNews.com. Welcome back to another one of our previews. All right, it's the big one. It's the one we've been waiting for all summer. It drew a little bit light, only 5 horses, but the big horse is here. Of course, I'm talking about the Travers Stakes coming up this Saturday at Saratoga. I'll put it up on the screen for you now. And like I said, a field of just 5 horses, race 13 on the card, going a mile and a quarter, $1.25 million on the line. Why are there only 5 horses? Well, it's pretty simple, because the number 4 Sovereignty is a monster, and it continues to be a monster. He scared them all away, except for one. Well, except for 4, I guess, but one main one for sure. This won't take long, and I think it's a very simple race to break down. But we'll go through them one by one, then we'll kind of break down the race. The number 1 is Magnitude. And let's face it, this horse was a good, not great horse for a lot of his career up until his last 2 starts. You know, he was kind of, he ran okay, but he's not great. Yeah, he ran okay, but he's not great. Those kind of efforts. He's been facing some good ones, but it was just like, okay, he is who he is. Again, he's not bad, but he's not out of this world. And then came the Risen Star, where they sent him to the front, and he absolutely dominated in one of the most impressive Kentucky Derby prep races of the season. I mean, dominates. Triple-digit Beyer speed figure. He's well clear of everybody else. The problem was he got injured in that race, and he didn't run again until the Iowa Derby, just like, what would that be, about 6-7 weeks ago. He did the same thing he did in the Risen Star. He got to the front, and he absolutely dusted him. The problem is, he beat nobody in the Iowa Derby. Just a very weak running of that race. He didn't beat a whole lot in the Risen Star. He did beat Chunk of Gold. That horse did come back to win the West Virginia Derby, but not thought of like this world-beating type, right? So did beat better horses in the Risen Star than he did, obviously, there in Iowa up at Prairie Meadows in the Iowa Derby. I don't know is kind of where I'm at with this one. I do know the talent, those last 2 races, he beat, average to not the below average horses, let's say, like a good horse should, just kind of in his own race, right? But how will he respond when facing these tougher horses? However, it's only one tougher horse, right? Bracket Buster, Strategic Force, McAfee. Probably pretty similar to what he's been facing, honestly. So very interesting. I think he's very interesting here. We're going to talk about and break down the pace after we talk about all 5 horses. It's a 2-horse race for me. It's either going to be Magnitude or Sovereignty, and I'll break it down here in a second. The number 2 is Bracket Buster. In the Pegasus Stakes, which was the local prep race for the Haskell, this horse looked like $1 million. He didn't look like $1 million in the Haskell. He kind of just didn't do much running at all. Kind of a non-factor in that one. Better company, will he kind of look like that? That's kind of my thing. He is 20-1, I think, for a reason. I'm not quite sure on this one. He was kind of a pass for me. The number 3, Strategic Force. This was a horse that 2 races back, he looked about as sharp as one could look in an allowance. I thought, man, this may be an up-and-comer. I definitely was kind of thinking, yeah, Chad Brown could get this horse to the Travers. He entered him in the Curlin Stakes, and I got to tell you, when this horse turned for home in the Curlin Stakes, I thought, now we're going to see a good horse. He looked like $1 million, and he stopped hard. Chancer Patrick ends up winning that race, a horse that I kind of thought Chad Brown would put in the Travers, but instead is going to run him in the Allen Jerkins. So that kind of tells you what he kind of thinks at this horse, Chancer Patrick, going 1.25 miles. Chad Brown also said after the Curlin, it was an interesting comment. He said, when we turned for home, I thought my other horse, talking about Strategic Focus, was getting ready to romp. And then all of a sudden he kind of stopped, and Chancer Patrick was able to beat him. So, he's got a lot of talent, talking about Strategic Force. I don't know. I mean, the Curlin obviously is not a great sign, but it is a good sign that he runs here. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with him. Wouldn't be shocked if he was able to maybe get second and maybe surprise people, maybe juice up an exacta, but I'm just not quite sure what to make of him at this point. The number 4 is Sovereignty. I don't really think we have to go over him too much, right? Kentucky Derby winner, Belmont Stakes winner, Jim Dandy winner. And each race I thought was very impressive. Of course, anytime you win the Kentucky Derby, it's a good race, an impressive race, and good on you for sure. The Belmont Stakes, I thought that was the best race of his career by a mile. I thought that was an unbelievable effort. I thought the Jim Dandy was damn good as well. And I think it was Jim Dandy was a really nice prep for the Travers. And you got to remember, the goal was the Travers pretty much immediately after the Kentucky Derby. They were like, yeah, we want to win the Travers with this horse. Bill Mott's never won a Travers. He really wants to get it. And when Bill Mott targets a race, they usually show up with a huge, huge effort. His last race on the Jim Dandy, I don't think he was fully cranked, and he was still able to beat Baeza. I don't think Magnitude's as good as Baeza. So I think Sovereignty is sitting here with, obviously, at 2-5. He's the horse to beat in a big, big way. Finally, the number 5, McAfee. He's been running okay in the lower kind of races. He ran third in the Ohio Derby. I thought he ran well there. He ran pretty well at West Virginia Derby. Got second, but this is not that race. This is Sovereignty and, Magnitude. And it's just going to be tough for him to match up with these horses. No doubt about it. All right. That is the field of 5. What's this really come down to? Magnitude from the rail. They're going to send him. They're going to send him. Can he take him gate to wire? Will he have any pace pressure? And can he just go gate to wire and not feel any pressure? And even though Sovereignty runs a huge race, Magnitude gets out by himself and gallops away from him. Is that possible? Yes. I do think the other 3 horses, let's not talk about Sovereignty for a second, but the other 3 horses, Bracket Buster, Strategic Focus, and McAfee, they're not as fast as Magnitude, but they really need to be forwardly placed in this race, in my opinion. I kind of think at least one of them is going to try to go. Maybe it's Bracket Buster with Louis Sai aboard, an aggressive rider, as we know. Maybe he tries to go up there a little bit. I'm not fully convinced, even though it is a very short field, I'm not fully convinced Magnitude is going to be loose by 3-4 lengths. I think somebody will pressure him up front, and that somebody might be Sovereignty. If you go back and watch the Jim Dandy, another short field where people were worried about Moplex, and Moplex could go gate to wire on him and get away from him. Well, people were worried about Moplex, and Moplex did set the pace, but guess what? Sovereignty was just right there, right off of him, and just kind of flew by him like he was standing still, right? That's the thing. Before the Kentucky Derby, before the Belmont, I should say. So the Kentucky Derby back through his first race, he felt not like a Sierra Leone type where he was all the way to the back, but he kind of felt like he's going to be towards the back. He might be ahead of 2 or 3 horses. He's going to be 6 or 8 off of it, right? And maybe even 5 or 6 off of it, but he's not ever going to be more forward than about mid-pack, right? And that was kind of my knock on him, even after the Kentucky Derby, which I thought was a super impressive race from him. I still kind of thought, I don't know, he might be too far back in some of these races and he might get himself beat. The Belmont, he stalked the pace and it was beautiful. And he absolutely dominated down the stretch. He was full of energy despite being closer. And that's why I think that was brilliant. The Jim Dandy, he literally outbroke them all. And if Junior Alvarado would have let him, I think he would have set the pace and won gate to wire. But because, look, he probably is a horse that wants a target. Obviously, we've seen that over and over. He took a hold of him, kept him in a stalking position, but he was well within range of the leader, right? And that's where I'm saying here, even if Magnitude gets out in front of him, I'm skeptical as to how far he will be ahead of Sovereignty at any point in this race, because Sovereignty has shown he can sit off the pace now. And he's become a horse, if he can continue to do this, and there's no reason to think he's not after 2 races up here, that he can't do the same thing in the Travers. If he can sit closer like he did the last 2 races, I don't think Magnitude speed's really going to bother him. So I think he's within range. I think they turn for home and Magnitude's ahead, and I think Sovereignty goes and gets him. So number 4, Sovereignty for me to win this year's version of the Travers. Listen, it is a light field, and there's no way around it. I did not think in, June or even July we'd have 5 horses in this thing, but we do. And we do because everybody is afraid of Sovereignty. Why are they afraid of Sovereignty? He's beaten Baeza, and he's beaten journalism over and over. What are you going to do? He scared them all away. I still think this could be exciting. If we turn for home and Magnitude is firing a big-time race and he's ahead of him, maybe he can hold him off for a little while. Maybe if he can hold him off to the wire, that would be exciting. Maybe he can make it a race. Maybe he can make it a better race than Baeza or journalism could make it. I'm skeptical that that's going to be the case. when I look at magnitude and I look at journalism, I think journalism is a better horse. In Sovereignty, absolutely crushed him twice. So that being said, for me, it's a logical, well, obviously, but it really wasn't a debate in my mind. I'm going to go number 4 Sovereignty to win this version of the Travers. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Hit that like button if you like it. Hit subscribe if you really like it. Want to get alerted anytime we do videos like this. And most importantly, good luck if you're betting Saratoga on Saturday.